Hi guys, this is Elizabeth from Alexandria's Private Tuition, and today I thought I'd go through a quick video on Scrooge. So, A Christmas Carol, Scrooge's character arc. As we know, a character arc is basically the character's journey throughout the story. So, thinking about how they are presented at the start and then basically transform throughout the novel. And then at the end, thinking about have they changed? Are there any shifts in their character? And really kind of like mapping them out. So, today we're going to look at how Scrooge is transformed from a miser to a symbol of generosity, reflecting Dickens' critique on Victorian society. So, Scrooge is the embodiment of, so he's not just an individual character, he acts as a vehicle for Dickens' critique on Victorian society. Now, what do I mean by critique? Dickens has basically looked around Victorian England and he's annoyed with what he sees. He's frustrated. He sees the rich getting richer, the poor are being abused and treated as though they're not important. There's this really kind of like strong sense of capitalist and socialist mindset, which is something that links to an inspector course if you are studying that. At the start of the novel, Scrooge embodies the selfishness, the greed, and the coldness of a capitalist Victorian England. He represents the upper class attitude towards the poor, seeing them as a burden, seeing them as something to be kind of like avoided and used, like they weren't considered real individuals. And that is shown in this line where he says, if they would rather die, then they better do it and decrease the surplus population. Now, again, these are really kind of like harsh words that he's using. Die, decrease, population. Like these words really kind of reinforce how upper class capitalist society really viewed the working class. So Scrooge reflects a society driven by profit over people, one that neglects its moral duty to care for the vulnerable, like the kids, because as we know, they're chimney sweepers, as like kind of like the elderly, the homeless. Dickens uses Scrooge to symbolize how mankind, has lost its compassion in pursuit of wealth and status during this industrial revolution. So, as the novel progresses, however, Scrooge's transformation, mirrors what Dickens hoped for society. He wanted to expose society to what they were like now, but basically show them that there is a chance, there is always hope at redemption. So Scrooge learns to care for others, to give generously, to value human connection over money by looking at his past, by looking at the present and looking at what's going to happen in the future. His redemption reflects Dickens' belief that Victorian society can change and choose generosity, kindness, and moral responsibility. The spirits act as a conscience for Scrooge and by extension, mankind. So by the end, we see Scrooge basically saying, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all year round, which is a stark contrast to how he was at the start of the play, basically wishing death on the poor. So this symbolizes the hope that society can embrace these values permanently and not just at Christmas, especially the last line, and try to keep it all year round. So this idea that every single day of the year, like we need to be kind, we need to be considerate of others. So let's think about the spirits. So the ghost of Christmas past symbolizes memory, reflection. It really highlights the importance of the past and how we can learn from our past mistakes. So the power of our history to shape who we are. The spirit light is described as shining, bright, and clear, representing the truth and enlightenment, almost kind of like forcing Scrooge to confront moments that shape his selfishness, and in return, like getting us as readers to do the same. Dickens presents the spirits to highlight how childhood loneliness, loss, and missed chances, like Scrooge's rejection of Belle, trap people to regret. The spirit shows us that understanding the past in the first is the first step forward. So it's not necessarily about wishing you could rewrite the past. It's about thinking about how can I use my past to be a better person, because we all make mistakes. We all gonna mess up. And just like Scrooge, he messed up, but he didn't learn from his mistakes. Instead, he took those mistakes and he used them to propel him forward in a negative way. So contextually, Dickens draws on his own painful childhood memories and uses the spirits to emphasize how emotionally neglected he was and how it can lead to moral failure. So if you don't feel supported as a child, if you don't feel supported in your younger years, it will definitely affect you. And I think we really see that in Scrooge's decision to seek money because he was afraid of being poor. So in Victorian society, it was obsessed with progress and industry. And Dickens reminds the reader that looking back at personal and society failings is necessary to pave the way for a meaningful future. So the Ghost of Christmas Present, he always looks like Santa Claus for me, symbolizes generosity and community and social consciousness. So the fact that he's draped in green, it represents this abundance of life, this healthiness, this freshness. Um, and also the spirit guides Scrooge through a scene of togetherness and poverty, and he really hones in on using the Cratchit family. So Dickens uses the spirit to expose the contrast between the wealth and the hardship of Victorian England, especially through the Cratchit's joy despite their poverty. And you've probably heard this before, like the Cratchit family represent this idea that money does not buy happiness. It's all about the connection and love that we form with others. So the most powerful moment that the spirit reveals is the children ignorance and want, and they're described as yellow and meager and ragged and scowling, like they're really presented in a negative way. So through them, Dickens directly attacks Victorian society, its failure to care for its vulnerable, warning them that ignoring poverty is society's greatest threat. Okay? So contextually, the spirit reflects Dickens' anger at the poor law. So that's a good bit of AO3 to get in there. And the workhouses and his desire to inspire the reader to embrace charity, compassion during the period of the Industrial Revolution. Now, one of the key things that I really like at the start of the book is Dickens has a bit of a note where he says that he wants this to be a story that haunts houses for years to come. And he was really successful in doing that. But essentially, like Dickens wanted us in the Victorian society and us now in the 21st century to put humanity at the forefront of our minds, to be very charitable. And I think this is really summed up in the Cratchit family and more importantly in the Ghost of Christmas Present. Finally, one of my favorite spirits has to be the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Like he's the phantom. He doesn't say a word, he just points. Essentially, he is the Grim Reaper. So he represents death, fear, and the moral reckoning that awaits those who live selfishly. So he's like, listen, if you continue to ignore your past and don't do anything for your present, this is what's await. He's a whole warning. So the spirit is silent, he's shrouded in black. And the certainty and the finality of death is shown through his character. So by showing Scrooge his own forgotten grave and unfeeling reactions from those around him, Dickens presents the powerful warning where greed and isolation leads you to your grave when nobody cares about you. No one's there to mourn you, no one's there to help you. Instead, you're cold and alone with your money. Okay, so the spirits embody Victorian anxieties about morality, legacy, and the consequences of ignoring moral duty. So Dickens uses this to deliver a final chilling message that change is possible but limited. So don't think you have 101 chances. Make your change today. So, in terms of context, Victorian England, it was a growing gap between the rich and the poor. So we had the Industrial Revolution, but you also had those who were moving from rural areas, sorry, into London, and poverty and was at its all-time high. So it's this belief that individuals must take responsibility for creating a more compassionate and just society. It was not just about making money, but making sure that society was a place that everyone could thrive. I really hope that was helpful. If you've got any comments below, please, if you've got any comments, drop them below. And I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. Scan the QR code as well, so you can go to the website. And I've got a lot of resources that can help you. And if you want any videos for me to do, just let me know And yeah, thank you for listening.